Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, use of force expert, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, CEO of Active Self-Protection, Stephanie Widener.
Lucky Gunner is my recommended trusted provider of Freedom Seeds for range or defensive use. In stock, good prices, and rocket-fast shipping are why I go back again and again. Because of new guidelines, I can't link their site or say it, but you're smart and you can find it with a simple Google search. Stick it to the man by paying them a visit today. This one is from Kuching in Malaysia, and if you go read the news story that I've linked in the description, and it's actually buried in the comments on the post that has the raw, you'll see here that this is targeted violence ethnically, that in Malaysia here, these guys are being attacked because they are Chinese and they're running a business in Malaysia. And so you're gonna see some guys come in and attack them. We do have audio. Let's listen in and hear as these guys come and attack them. Our attackers ran off. Again, the news story in the description, or the news description there, says that the two guys that you saw that were injured were badly injured. They were taken to the hospital where they had serious, though non-life-threatening injuries, and they were treated for those. It says police are looking for them. Man, they have very little to go on here. I doubt they're going to catch him. All right, Stephanie, I know people ask this all the time. They're like, John, you're not the Chief Executive Officer of Active Self-Protection? Heck no, I'm not. I am the President of Active Self-Protection, and I am the Chief of Content Creation, but you run the stinking company.
Yeah, it just works best that way. You decide the vision and where we're headed, and I make us go that way. So it's two different roles and two different people doing them.
Yep, and she's awesome at it, and also a nationally recognized use of force expert, which is why she's here on Saturdays. You know, Steph, this is a challenge the world over. We live in a time of increasing racial violence, increasing ethnic animosities. And of course, we absolutely despise that at Active Self-Protection, and we decry it. And I think that, you know, learning that other cultures are fine, other people are good, and not that they are them, but they are us. We're all humans. And learning how to get along and how to coexist in a world that is pluralistic and different is, I think, an important part of growing up in 2025. And so I think that's a message we all need to remind ourselves of. Just because somebody came from China at some point, they don't represent the Chinese government. Just because they come from a place, don't treat them like they're an agent of that place. Treat them as a human being worthy of respect and dignity and care.
And wherever you are in the world, if you're in a marginalized community or a targeted community, whatever that looks like, whether that's due to lifestyle choices or racial lines or whatever it is that has gotten you some attention, I would just encourage you to look into finding ways to protect and defend yourself. You have a right to exist. You have a right to your freedom and to live your life as you please, as long as you're not harming others. And there are a lot of really good self-defense trainers and instructors out there that are more than happy to help all kinds of communities of people to better defend themselves, because self-defense is a human right and a civil right that we should all afford each person.
And again, you're responsible for it because it is self-defense. Nobody's coming to save you, right? And especially if you're in one of those vulnerable communities, you have to take the initiative in order to learn to defend yourself and learn that, hey, if somebody does come and they want to hurt us because of who we are, we have the right to protect ourselves. I believe all humans are imbued with the image of God and are of inestimable value, worth, and dignity. So no matter who you are, nobody has a right to harm you. Now, I want to notice here that our victims here, our intended victims, as soon as they see what's going on, they boogie and they start moving. I think these people actually seem to me, Stephanie, that they were prepared for that. And as soon as they saw this threat, they started a plan of action. I want to note here, we have the intended victims, We have here what looks like a mom with a baby in a stroller at the bottom of the screen, maybe dad of that baby next there. We have other uninvolved people. Everyone has a role to play here. And if we've never wargamed this, if we've never put our mind to what are we going to do and with whom, we will really struggle here in defending ourselves.
Yeah, and everyone sprung into action quite quickly here, so I think that that's a really good sign. Obviously, we don't have a lot of angles here to see what might be available to them via exits or other things that they could do to get, particularly if you have a small child with you, to get them out of this danger zone. So you would really want to think about that, particularly if you might need to exit quickly. So we do see them moving, and I think making any decisions and any movement is preferable to freezing up and wondering. And one of the best ways you can do that is, like you said, John, just wargaming these types of things in your environment so your brain has some files to access when you get to this situation. Because if your brain doesn't have any files to access, it's going to take longer to make a decision. So help build those rich files that you can access, those patterns that you can recognize, and you'll react much more quickly.
I also love here, notice here at the bottom, the very bottom of the screen, that man grabbed up that baby and said, I got to get this baby out of here. Now the lady, she bounced off. Maybe that's not mama, I don't know. But recognize that, hey, he's like, I got to get this baby out of here. He made that as his priority. I think that's fantastic. And then also our guy here who was the initial intended victim, he just grabbed a chair because that's what was in his environment. Now, would I prefer a purpose-built defensive tool? Yes. But sometimes you're just not going to have them. Gun laws in Malaysia are very strict, very difficult to own a firearm. So he used what he had available, and even a plastic chair from, I don't know what the Malaysian equivalent of Walmart is, but you know, maybe they have Walmarts there, I don't know. That recognizing that and using it, even against the machete, might provide you a few minutes to make a better decision later.
Yeah, get a few minutes, get a few extra feet of distance, just anything you can do to better your odds. And we've seen things like these silly plastic chairs play a role in defensive encounters way more times than you would expect. So yeah, look around in your environment. What can you use? What can you grab? Especially if you're in a place where you're not able to have a firearm and you normally would.
So even a plastic chair, here's the funny thing. You know, you might look at that and go, well, why didn't that mugger just reach out and grab it? Why didn't this attacker just grab that thing? They don't. This is what we see again and again and again. They look at that barrier and they feel like they have to defeat it. I've seen people with guns like have to move the gun around a plastic lawn chair because they can't shoot through it in their mind. I'm not saying it's a great strategy, but it's one that's worked again and again and again in real life. So if it's stupid, but it works, it ain't stupid. Now, eventually though, the chair fails, right? So you notice there he whacks at it and now that chair is done. So I want you to maintain some mental flexibility. One of the challenges of humans is that we get tool fixated. Now, that's a benefit when we have an attacker who has a machete, because we know he's almost certainly only going to think about that machete, but it can affect us as well, because then, oh no, I have this chair and this chair is my whoopee that keeps me safe. Nope, it's just a tool in my hand. And you know, Stephanie, I think probably the greatest value of watching these incidents every single day is it gives us exactly what you said earlier, this mental Rolodex. If you know what a Rolodex is, please schedule your colonoscopy soon. But you get this mental Rolodex of ideas here, a meme folder for you kids so that you understand how these things can go so that you know what to do when the time comes.
Yeah, and you can recontextualize that to your own life. Interestingly, we will get complaints now and again for showing videos like these machete attacks because people are convinced machete attacks don't happen in America. And I would challenge you, if you think something like this would not happen in your locale, to Google machete attacks and just start seeing how often these things happen. Violence tends to be violence across the world over, and it often looks very, very similar. So don't look at something like this and think this isn't the threat that I would face. Maintain that mental flexibility, because I have yet to meet the self-defender that really nailed what their self-defense scenario would go like. It was very often not anything that they had considered before. So be flexible as you're training and planning and being educated as well.
I do think that this video also reminds me of why I think the right to keep and bear arms is so important for the average person. Because these people, against a couple of machete-wielding attackers, you know what they needed? They needed a gun. They needed the ability to put these guys down and end the threat so that they didn't take near mortal wounds from these guys. If any of the women on screen had a firearm, these guys are done with their attack, which is why I am a Second Amendment absolutist, and I think that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I'm glad that our government at least recognizes that, but for better or for worse, other places don't, right? I wish they did. Now, let's think about our victims here as well. They've both taken pretty serious wounds, thankfully non-life-threatening wounds, but serious nonetheless. And you can see here, Steph, bright red arterial blood. They're both bleeding heavily, one out of the leg, one out of the arm. Can't say enough, man. You gotta have your medical training on point. You gotta have the equipment with you. Imagine if you're like, well, yeah, I keep a med kit in my car. Okay, you're gonna hobble over to the car now. Tick, 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 tick. Also, stage your medical equipment appropriately. This is probably a good time to use a tourniquet. And if it's not staged correctly, now with bloody hands, you're trying to unwrap it. You're trying to get it correct. So I think a lot of people don't think about this stuff, but this is why I carry a medical kit, Steph.
Yeah, and trauma is trauma. So we're not even just talking about needing to use a medical kit in a self-defense scenario, but motor vehicle accidents, accidents at work, all kinds of things. You should have these things stashed in lots of different places as well as on your person for when you're out and about. Because when you need a tourniquet, much like a firearm, you need it in a few moments. So you only have a few moments to use it. And so it needs to be staged, it needs to be good quality, and you need to be able to access it in a time that's helpful.
Yeah, and of course, we do sell med kits through Mountain Man Medical, and you can hit the link in the description. If you buy those, anything that would come to active self-protection from those goes to charity. And we pick a different charity occasionally, and we've raised a bunch of money. I mean, thousands of dollars every year that go to charity through those. So if not, roll your own. I don't care. Do what you want there. It doesn't affect me either way. I have something, would you? And the ones that we sell through Mountain Man, I mean, they're actually a couple bucks cheaper than if you rolled them your own. So I think that's a win. Have one regardless and learn how to use it. Take some medical training so then that way you got it. Now, are the cops going to catch these guys? No, there's no chance they're going to catch these guys. Not any chance at all. They were hooded and masked and I'm sure, protected by their friends who, again, this is racially based violence. They probably think, oh yeah, they're great. They're the winners here or whatever. You can be the one and only one who can protect yourself in the moment. So let's make sure that we get the lessons out of this one, guys, so that we can cover our asp.